Elodie from Solidarité Jeunesse, French volunteering organization you all know, I guess. We are working in Paris, but we also have 8 regional delegations that host volunteers all year long, and that also organize international projects in summer for adults, families, and teenagers. And so we will mainly focus on teenagers because we think that it is really important for teenagers to participate in projects very soon, as soon as possible, because we think that it can bring a change to society. It can shape their personality, their identity, and it can also bring peace in our world, and this is what we are looking for. Every year we see that a lot of teenagers want to participate in projects, but we don't have a lot of projects to offer teenagers because partners always think that they don't have the capacity to organize projects for them. So we decided to organize a big project, which is a KA2 project financed by the European Commission. And we wanted to focus on quality development of international projects for teenagers. And we decided to organize this project called GoTeens, which stands for Go with Teenagers Engagement and Empowerment Through Networking. And in this project, we are 8 partners, 5 from Europe, so Greece, Italy, Spain, Estonia, and France, but also partners from India, Japan, and Canada. So thank you for joining. I saw many people from these countries in this webinar. The main objectives of this project is to reinforce the capacity of partner organizations to organize projects for teenagers, and also to provide youth workers and camp leaders with online and offline tools to lead activities for teenagers. So in this third and last webinar of our project, GoTeens, you will surely know more activities you can implement with your groups. And if you're interested, you can join our YouTube channel to see the last webinars we implemented in the past month. So we will be very happy to have your thoughts on this project.
Thank you, Elodie. So as Elodie said, this is the 3rd webinar for this project, but this is the 2nd webinar that we are giving as Élan Interculturel. We gave a webinar in July, so maybe some of you participated. And so that first webinar had to do with the functioning of the brain of adolescents and how it interferes with pedagogy. And so this is the 2nd part that will have more to do with intercultural team building, how to include every identity present in the group, and also how to foster motivation in an intercultural youth group. So this is the subject of today's webinar. We already saw the technical aspects, and I'm going to give the microphone to Cécile so she can present a little bit more who we are, so you know who's talking to you.
Thank you, Manon. Just 3 words about who we are. Actually, Élan Interculturel is a non-profit organization based in Paris, founded by 5 migrant women in 2008. Women who were interested in exploring and developing new methods and tools to facilitate intercultural communication, collaboration, and adaptation. Our expertise is has been building thanks to international and European projects, especially Key Action number 2, and recently capacity building for youth as well. And we have expertise on migration and mobility with diverse groups, including young people. Yeah, we work a lot with young people at risk of exclusion. And we want to help discover this aspect of diversity through better knowledge of ourselves, firstly, for a fair encounter with difference. Then if you want to have more information about us, we will send you our website. So let us start with an activity for stimulate intercultural team building. Unfortunately, we don't have time to do this activity ourselves now, yeah, but we will explain to you how to set up this activity, the goals, and with Manon we will perform a little bit this activity. So the first step is to create pairs, yeah, and you will ask your partner the story of her name. Why, yeah, your partner is called Peter, yeah, who gave him this name and why, the reason. Maybe we don't know the reason, but we know the meaning. Okay, we can explore about if the person likes or not the name. So after sharing, yeah, the story of the name with your partner, I will present. I have already shared with Manon, and Manon, she knows my story. I know Manon's story, so we will share with you, okay, the story of our names. Manon, do you want to share my story?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Cécile. So just imagine we are back in a circle, and before we were in pairs, just chatting with our partner, and so now we're back in the full circle. And so I'm introducing you to Cécile. Cécile is from Argentina, and when she was born, there was a dictatorship in Argentina. And it was a nationalist regime. And so there was a specific list of names that were allowed and foreign names were not allowed. And her parents always liked the name Cécile, which is not a Spanish-speaking name. And so they were not allowed to call her Cécile. So they called her Cecilia. Cecilia was in the list of names that were allowed. But no one ever called her Cecilia. Everybody calls her Cécile since she was a child. And also, Cécile is the saint of music.
Yeah.
Cécile, did I forget something?
No. Thank you. Manon. Actually, Manon, if I pronounce in French, Manon, means Marie in Provençal. Yeah, actually, Provençal is a local language in the south of France. Okay, and the reason is that her family is from this region, the south of France, and especially her grandmother. Her grandmother was born there in the south of France. So her parents called Manon, yeah, as to pay homage to their origins and to her grandmother. And then the second name is Marie. So actually, she's twice called Marie, because remind that Manon means Marie. Okay, so she's called Manon, Marie, and the third name is Eleanor, because it's the name of her maternal great grandmother. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's perfect.
So why is interesting for us, this activity. Why this activity for us is very useful for stimulate intercultural communication, collaboration, and team building in young people. Firstly, because all young people have something to say about their name. The story, sometimes there is a specific story or a regional story, cultural story, or the meaning who share with the others. The fact of introduce, this is very important. Instead of introduce myself, yeah, I introduce my partner, and the fact of introduce my partner, that reduce, yeah, my stress response, because the fact of talking alone in public, it will be very stressful. So now I'm introduced Manon, but everybody look at Manon, not at me. So that will decrease my stress, and I will develop oral skills. And on the other hand, the fact of presenting, introducing the story of Manon, her family story, her origin, etc., that will value my partner. Okay, and on the other hand, this activity fosters intimacy in a way that is smooth, and everybody is free to share or even to create a story. Okay, and this activity triggers emotions and create links between the participants that can come from different backgrounds and countries.
Yes.
To add something.
Yes, I can add that you just saw us, just one pair sharing the stories of the other, but just try to imagine, and maybe you've used this activity before, but imagine a group where you have 20 stories, different stories that are shared, coming from very different cultural backgrounds, and it's kind of magical to see how common traits and specific differences are shed light upon during this activity. And where people don't know each other at all, this activity is very powerful to create bonds and to see common things between cultures that at first sight we think are very different. And we can see very common traits in each stories. And it's a very powerful activity that we like a lot in Elan. And it's always, even if you do it again and again, it's always a new experience with a new group. So just a little bit of theory, what's behind this activity is the idea of identity, because what is more characteristic of us than our name? And when we say name, it can be a name that we chose for ourselves. It doesn't have to be the name that's on your ID card. You can choose the story of the name by which everyone calls you. So everyone chooses the name that they introduce, of course. And so it's a very strong marker of identity. And we have to think about the young people that we accompany in our projects. They still have a very flexible and changing identities. I mean, our identities are flexible all throughout our lives until we die. But young people are still building their identity and their personality, and they are much more flexible. So their identity is very changing over time. And they have an increased need to feel valued because they can be vulnerable in how to find their place and their position in a group. And so the interest of intercultural activities like this one, but you can have other ones, we will give you more ideas by the end of this webinar, is really to allow to value every person present in the group by responding to two main needs that are needs of our identity. It's the first need is the need to belong to a group. And the other one is the need to be distinguished as different. So it's an ambivalent needs that are together at the same moment. And so with this activity, you can feel that you belong because you see that you have common traits with people, that you have common things in your story, in the story of your name, but you also feel distinguished because we are talking about you specifically, and two people that have the same name in the group always have a different story about their name. So this is a very specific trait of this activity that really responds to those two needs. And so it feeds those very important needs of identity. And they help the person to describe who they are, partly, of course, and to find a space and a place in the group. And the second interest of intercultural activity is, so the first interest was to value every person present in the group because they belong, but also because they are different and specific. And the second interest of intercultural activities is to value diversity in itself as a concept. So it shows that the cultural diversity that is present in the group really helps to foster more creativity in the group, because we have all different cultural glasses. So the filters that we see the world through will be all different in the group. And this brings diverse points of view on the same situation, on a problem, on an issue, on a project. And it really helps to foster collaboration and creativity, to be aware that diversity is a richness, is an asset. So if I experience diversity as valuable, I can see it as an asset for the group. And intercultural activities help raise awareness on that importance of diversity in itself. So then I am aware that diversity is an asset, and I'm aware that it's a strength for the group. So it's kind of an educational tool too, because the people you work with are young. They still need to learn a lot of things. Of course, we learn as adults as well, but you can also think of intercultural activities as educational tools to really make young people experience how diversity is an asset. Because valuing each identity and valuing diversity in itself helps foster collaboration in the future, and they can help avoid future tensions, because if people are aware of the diversity present in the group and that it's an asset, the small tensions or misunderstandings that will happen because of cultural differences and because they are present, it's a reality. If people know that diversity is an asset, they will look at those tensions with different glasses, with a different point of view. And so members of the group will have a positive approach to what's different, to new ideas, to different opinions about the project, because they are conscious that diversity brings something to the table. Cécile, do you want to add something? No, we can go on?
Yeah.
Okay, so that first part was about intercultural team building and what it brings to a group to open your sessions, your work sessions, your workshops with intercultural team building, valuing identities and valuing diversity in itself. And so now we want to tackle the second part of this webinar. If there are any questions, don't hesitate to type them in the chat, of course. And here you will participate a little bit more. And I'm giving the mic to Cécile again.
Yeah, thank you. So in this part, we will focus on how to develop the motivation, yeah, and engagement in the group of young people. So this activity that we call a situation as I solved, I will explain. Firstly, we will perform with Manon, and then we will create breakdown rooms so that you can test a little bit this activity. So firstly, we will work in pairs. There will be a narrator and a listener, and firstly I will try to find a situation. Everybody will try to find a situation, a difficult situation, but a difficult situation that finally you could solve it, okay? In any domain. It will be a professional situation, personal situation, but a situation that you want to share now. So I will find a situation, I will identify the situation, and then I will share my situation, difficult situation that I solved to my partner, in this case, Manon. So, Manon, I will share my situation. Okay, before confinement, I went out, okay, at full speed for a medical appointment in Paris. I live in the south of Paris. I was in a hurry, so I ran and I take the train. Fortunately, when I was on the train, I looked for my cell phone, okay, to look at the address, and surprise, I left my cell phone at home, okay, and the address for the appointment and the phone numbers, doctor, were in my cell phone. So stress. The problem, yes, I didn't remember neither the address, neither nor the telephone number. So I observed around me, yeah, and suddenly I saw a young woman next to me with a cell phone in her hand. So I explained her the situation, okay, and I kindly asked her for her cell phone so that I can call to my husband, because it's the only number that I know actually by heart. Okay, she lent it to me. So I called to my husband. He quickly searched on Google the address, and fortunately, he found the address, and I would be able to arrive to the appointment at time. So this is my situation. It was a difficult situation, but fortunately, I could solve it. So now, Manon, what kind of resources did you identify? Resources, strategies, competencies, skills that helped me to cope with this stressful situation and solve this conflict?
Yes, so when I listened to your story, I saw that first you have physical skills, because you ran and you went really quickly to the train so you could catch the train to go to your appointments. Then you had a capacity of anticipation, because you looked for your cell phone to look at the address and to see if you had all the information that you needed. Then you have a capacity of observation, because you were able to look at the right person in the train or in the street to ask for help, and to observe that she had the tool you needed, which was a phone. You used your memory, because you remembered your husband's number.
Yeah.
And you used oral skills and communication skills to explain your situation and to ask for help to this lady.
Excellent. Thank you.
And so if you agree, I will send you in the chat your list of skills so you can keep it for yourself.
Thank you. Yeah. So now we will create breakdown rooms, and you will be with a person. You will decide who will be the narrator and who will be the listener. Unfortunately, we don't have time for change roles. In general, we do it, we change roles. And one of you will share the situation, and the other person, active listening, will try to find at least one resource, one competence that helped the person to solve the situation.
Okay, so now you have to imagine that you are in a group where you shared with a partner, and because you exchange roles when you have time and when you're in front of your partner, everyone has a little list of their own skills, some of their skills, because their partner gave it to him. So where we are in front of each other, we write the skills on a little paper, we tell the other person what are their skills, and we give it to them as a present, as a gift. And so everyone has their own list of skills, some of them. and they can have it for the rest of the project, the rest of the workshop. And so we will see now what's behind this activity, like we did for this one. So why do we like this activity in Elan? It's because we use resources every day for our everyday life, for the smallest things, and we don't even realize it. So yes, I see that some people didn't have the time to finish sharing. I'm so sorry. This webinar is very short, and it's really to be able to give you as much information as we can, so it's useful for the management of your projects. So I was saying, we use resources every day in our lives, and we don't even realize it. This is even more important when we work in Elan Intercultural with vulnerable groups, because some people in those groups tend to forget that they have skills and they have the capacity to be autonomous and to be able to solve things in their lives. And so this activity is all the more important with those groups, and we will see how it applies to youth groups too. If I tell the story and then my partner gives me my list of skills, I can also realize that I bring something specific to the project or to the team because I have those specific skills. And I can keep my list of resources with me. I can expand it. We will see how. And I can look at this list if I have it in my phone or if I have it in a book, in a paper. I can look at it every time I need that I feel a little boost because I feel that I have less motivation. We can go further with this activity. So once you've shared your story with your partner and you have your list of skills, you can also create a moment where everyone stands up and goes to meet another person of the group. You can tell your story again, and you can ask the new person to add a skill on that list that you already have, so you can expand that list. And so you have different points of view through our different cultural glasses of the same situation to see if other people identify new resources. And then after you've done this, you can ask each person to make cards with their resources. So one card with one resource. So I have one card with observation, one card with memory, one card with logic. And so each person has these cards in their hands. And as a facilitator, you can tell a situation, for example, related to the project that you are managing, the project that you want to put in place with your group. And you can tell them, for example, okay, now today is the third day of the project. You have to make a plan for in 2 weeks, but some people are absent. What do you do? And then the group around the table has to put on the table the resources that they will use to solve this issue related to that project. And you ask them, oh, really, you think you need your resource linked to logic? Why? And then the person explains why they need that resource and how they will apply it. So it's really a cognitive and emotional activity that helps us raise our own awareness on what we're capable of doing. You can also choose situations that are not issues, but that are objectives that you want to reach within your project. And so it can be applied to the very project that you are doing with this specific group. And I will give the mic to Cécile to explain the theory behind why it is so important to identify resources for motivation.
And why the capacity of identifying resources foster motivation and engagement. So this is something that we have already seen a little bit during the second or first webinar, the link between the thought, that means the way as we evaluate a situation, the emotion that this thought will provoke, and the behavior that this emotion and thought will develop. So depending on the way we evaluate a situation, That interpretation will provoke a negative or a positive emotion, will lead to a specific response, more advantageous or disadvantageous. So let us start with the, at the end, evaluation of the situation as a threat. Yeah, that means that when the person, let's imagine the young people, the teenager, evaluate a situation focusing on just on the danger of the situation and minimizing their own, his or her own resources, this young person will feel anxiety, irritation, fear, okay, and the kind of reaction will be coherent. So flee, flight, fight, or yeah, the person will be aggressive or will avoid the situation. And specifically from a cognitive point of view, we will see cognitive closure. That means that the person, the young person in that moment won't be able to learn, yeah, new information. On the contrary, if the young person evaluates a situation as a challenge, that means that it's able to focus on her resources, okay? And if the person is able to focus on her resources, it will provoke positive emotions, especially motivation, yeah, enthusiasm and motivation. And this kind of the motivation will lead to advantageous responses, reactions. From the cognitive point of view, openness, yeah, cognitive openness. That means that the person will be able to understand the perception, the concentration will be activated, and they will develop more adaptive responses. So the important is that when we identify, the person identify internal or external resources, we stimulate motivation. And remember that motivation is associated with a neurotransmitter called dopamine. Okay, we saw that during the second webinar, which fosters concentration, logic, perception, and will filter as well the emotion. And this kind of reaction will provoke positive outcomes. And when we are creative, yeah, and we can cope with difficult situations, this will further the motivation. It's a kind of virtuous circle, okay? So this is why it's important to try to organize activities with young people where they can see, yeah, identify and valorize their own internal and external resources. So remember that in young people, yeah, young people's brains are not fully developed until the age of 25, especially this part, the prefrontal cortex. And actually it's in this part of the brain where we can filter emotions, yeah, and where is the place where we can find the logic, the planification, the concentration, the empathy, okay? So if we help young people to identify regularly their resources, this is a key for stimulate collaboration and the development of the project. So identify resources in young people, we stimulate motivation, yeah, and motivation will lead to well-being, intercultural communication, intercultural collaboration, and efficiency. And now a short explanation about an activity called the clicker activity that for us is very useful, yeah, for identify resources and stimulate collaboration and motivation. So the clicker activity is an activity based on two concepts. It's based on an artistic methodology from a Belgian artist called Werner Morum from Belgium. And on the other hand, it's based on a theoretical approach developed by Musafer Sherif. Then we will send you all the references. It was Sherif was a social psychologist who developed the idea of supra-ordered purposes. Okay, so the activities based on supra-ordered purposes propose a situation where all young participants will cooperate to achieve a common goal. On the other hand, the goals are multiple and successive. The supra-ordered goals require the contribution of the resources of each participant. They must bear the interest of all. They require a joint effort, and these supra-ordered goals create a positive interdependence, reducing conflict and increasing motivation and engagement. So, the click activity. The click activity, the first part of this activity is individually. Obviously, then we will send you the pedagogical sheet, okay, with the different steps. But it's an activity really easy to set up and very efficient. So the first part is the real, that we call the real path, and we ask participants, young people, to identify, to reply at this question, what are your oldest and most precise memories? Okay, and as soon as they can identify an oldest memory, maybe it was yesterday, okay, my oldest memory right now is yesterday night, okay, but once they have this memory, we invite them to write it down, okay, and then in turn they will read aloud and share this real path, this memory, with the rest of the participants. Second step is the imaginary path. In this the second step, we ask the same question: what are your oldest and most precise memory? But this time, yeah, they are free to add or change something. Yeah, answer once again to the same question, but by introducing at least one change. It would be they can change a character, and an action, the end, the beginning, an emotion. They are completely free. That's the reason why we call this part the imaginary path. Again, they write this imaginary path in a paper. Then they will share to the group. They will read aloud. Okay, and the third step, yeah, is the co-creation path. The co-creation path. In this moment, we will organize smaller groups, and participants will create a new story. But in this new story, there will be at least one element from each story of the rest of the participants. Okay, maybe I take the character from Manon's story and the action from Isabella's stories, or maybe we can organize the new story based on mine, and we will adjust. But it's very important that in this new story, there will be involved at least one ingredient, yeah, from the rest of the participant stories. So now there are a new common creation. And what we will do with this new creation in group, in a collaborative way, we will transform this co-created story into art. And that depends on the time that you have. It depends on the materials. It depends on your motivation. We have experience in different kind of art. Sometimes the participants will perform the story. Sometimes they will create comics or photo language, I don't know how to say photo language, okay. They can set up choreographies, yeah. I think that we have pictures about that. Next slide, yeah, choreographies, or they can work on visual arts, create a collage. But the most important is that at the end, there would be an art product Okay, thanks to the collaboration and the resources of all the participants, and of course we will present, we will valorize this production, and we will help them to identify what kind of resources, internal and external resources, they have used it for creating, yeah, this artistic story or artistic performance, etc. And they will share, okay, negotiation skills, observation, communication skills. So it's an activity that is very interesting for identify resources, stimulate collaboration, and especially foster motivation and engagement in a group. Do you want to add something, Manon? Okay, last but not least, Manon, a short activity, team building activity for stimulating as well intercultural collaboration, the long sticks.
Okay, thank you, Cécile. So the long sticks is really one of the first activities that you can do if the group doesn't know each other. It's a great activity for a first meeting, but you can of course do it later. And it helps to introduce different concepts. So the aim of the activity, you need to find long sticks like you can see on the picture. Usually you can find this in gardening centers, gardening shops. And so they usually are, you know, tutors for plants, for example. You can use that. And so you divide the group in teams of 4 to 5 people. And so for one stick, there are 2 teams of 5 people. So it means 10 people for every stick. And so on one side of the stick, you have one team, and on the other side of the stick, you have another team. And so everybody will hold the stick on the surface of their fingers, of their indexes. They cannot grab the stick with their fingers. They have to keep their fingers flat, and the stick lies on the fingers in that way, in a passive way. And the aim is to bring the stick to the floor on the count of 3. And it sounds really easy, and for those who have done this activity before, it is really difficult because we don't know why, but the first automatic response of those people, of the teams that are around the sticks, no matter who they are, is to bring the stick up for some reason, because they are afraid that the stick will fall or something. And so they need to find a code, they need to find a way to bring that stick down. And so after a moment, they find the way. It can take 5 minutes, it can take 15 minutes. You need to let the teams figure out how to collaborate so they can bring the stick to the floor without grabbing it and without any other means than their communication skills and their fingers that are still in that position. So this activity fosters group communication. It fosters also group cohesion and coexistences of different leaderships, because sometimes you can identify one leader in that team that is bringing that stick to the floor, and sometimes there are different leaders that try to take the lead. It values individual skills because most often different people will suggest different strategies. One will work or 2 will work, not all of them, but most people suggest a strategy. And it fosters team spirit. So this activity allows us to foster to value every person in the group, and to see also how in an intercultural group you can have a new code that is being built through this activity, a new code, because after some time they will invent a strategy and everyone will adopt it in order to reach that objective. And so this is, you can also point out after this activity, you can do a debriefing of this activity with your group by saying, why did we do this? And by showing that this could be a metaphor of your project. So in the beginning, you don't really know how to do it, but little by little, you will find a common language, and you will find you will take into account different suggestions, and you will build together a common language to reach your objectives. So that's one last inspiration that we wanted to give you today. It's 3 o'clock and we were not supposed to go further. So we will send you this presentation, of course. You will have all the activities that we talked about today. Do you have any questions? Maybe you can put them in the chat, or any reactions. You want to say something about this webinar, positive or constructive, or a question, and we will make sure to download the conversation so we can answer your questions by email.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Solidarité Jeunesse, for inviting us. And Simon for the technical issues, and all the participants for your active listening.
Yes, thank you very much for your participation. We hope you liked the activity in breakout rooms. We would have liked to hear you, but with so many people and such little time, it's hard to listen for everyone's expressions through the microphone. But we hope you enjoyed and that it will be useful for you and for your teams. And if you knew some of the activities, we hope that it brought maybe a new vision and a new way of looking at them.
Mm-hmm.
Elodie, do you want to add something?
No, thank you for the presentation. And of course, we already said it, but you will share the presentation. So we will send it to you. We will also download the webinar on YouTube, so you can see it later. You can watch it later. You can also share it with your teams, because we know that maybe you didn't identify yet your team leaders for next year, but you will be able to share this material with them later next year. So we hope you liked it, and you can also send your questions by email about the project, about the webinars, and we will be very happy to answer.
Thank you, Elodie. Thank you, everyone, for your presence, and we wish you a nice day or night according to where you are on the globe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.